the only other, oh, Walt is still an attendee. I don't know if somebody can promote him. I mean, yeah, up to panelists, please. There he is.
Thank you for
Hi, Walt.
being. Good afternoon, folks.
The only reason I thought we could put attendance on or introductions was because I was maybe expecting Andrew from left field maybe, and a new person from Dale Street, but we don't have either of those people here today, but that's okay. So sorry about that trouble getting us going. Everybody ready to go though? Yes. So the first thing to do was to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Did anybody have any suggestions? Other than that, would anyone like to move to approve them?
But just Megan, before, just so you're aware of some other things going on with the SBC in general. There has been a complaint about some administrative issues around meeting minutes, despite the fact that we have been issuing our meeting minutes along with all of the presentation materials. Technically, by the letter of the law, we need to identify the meeting materials in the meeting minutes, despite the fact that they're one file that's posted on the website. So we now have to have a special meeting next week for the SBC to go back and revote all of the minutes for the entire project and make those amendments. So just moving forward, just remember that if anything is presented in the meeting, it needs to be noted in the minutes. So just wanted to make sure you were aware of that, because obviously we have some people that are looking to make sure every T is crossed and every I is dotted. So just an FYI.
Okay.
Can we take wagers on who's complaining?
I don't think many people would take the other side of that bet.
How about the, so was there anything that we presented? I don't think so. I think we just
I
went
don't
through.
think you did. I'm just noting it for the future.
Okay, thank you. You know what I don't have is whether we should be reading that little paragraph.
I think technically we should. I can send it to you. Let me send that to you. I mean, I can read it now, and actually you probably should. I'm not officially a subcommittee member, but bear with me. I'll shoot this over. All right, on its way.
Okay. I wasn't sure. Oh, go ahead.
Currently, there are no other attendees, but it's good just to put it on the recording so that we can show that we did read that.
I'm sorry, my computer's being slow. I wasn't sure what I wanted today for the snow day, either to, you know, to have to miss the meeting or be able to do it. But here we are. We've got a short time frame, so I guess this is the better option. All right, here it is. Friends. Okay, ready? Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A, section 18, and the governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Medfield School Building Committee Sustainability Subcommittee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen or view this meeting while in progress may do so by following the instructions on the agenda and meeting notice. Okay. And with that, we'll officially open our meeting, and welcome everyone again and ask if anyone has any questions about the minutes. And seeing no questions, would anyone like to motion to approve the minutes?
So moved. I would like the motion to approve the minutes.
Excellent. Second? Everybody else is on
I
mute.
can second. Walter can second.
Thank you. And then, so we'll ask to approve. Let's see, Alec
Approved.
and Tom
Approved?
and Walt
Approved.
and Amy.
Can I approve them if I was not there?
Yes.
Yes.
Technically, you
Okay.
can, you just have
Okay.
to say that you've reviewed them, or you can abstain. There's certainly enough votes to pass them anyway.
No, I reviewed and approved. Thank you.
And Megan approved. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So moving on to item 3. We good? The Dale Committee users for the committee. I've asked Jeff Marsden if he can look for somebody at Dale to join us. He has not identified that person yet, or they have not identified themselves yet. So we're waiting on that. So number 4 is the Eversource Memorandum of Understanding. And I don't know if everybody was there or some of the people were there on Tuesday night, but got approved by the selectmen. Mike, what'd you think?
Yeah, I'm glad they agreed to go down this path. Basically, this is the first step in getting some incentives from Eversource. The Board of Selectmen approved for Christine to sign the MOU. And Larry, I did send over the one that you had signed, so I think she has everything she needs. But I'll check in with Christine just to make sure she has that. But so this would be the first step in securing their contribution for technical assistance to help us with some energy modeling that will help inform our decision making in as to whether we pursue a net zero or not.
The Eversource woman was very impressive. I thought she gave a good presentation too.
Yeah, Penny's great, and she's a good resource to have in town.
That's a great resource to have.
Utilities can be sometimes challenging to deal with, so to have someone from the utility that's a resident certainly helps us a lot.
Yeah.
Or always only
Does it-
challenging.
The next step, or the first step in that process, is to have a phone call with Eversource and the consultant that they've selected to work on this project. So we should be able, I don't think we'll be able to get it before Christmas, but we could maybe shoot for something between Christmas and New Year's, assuming that, you know, Eversource and whoever this consultant ends up being is available. And so I don't know if it needs to be this full subcommittee on that call. It'll be the design team, Arrow Street and GGD, the mechanical engineer, will be on that call. And it's basically a scoping session to determine exactly what that consultant that's hired through Eversource is going to do, and to coordinate their scope with, you know, what the GGD and Arrow Street scope are that kind of complement. And so it's really a scoping session. And then after that, the consultant can essentially start doing the energy modeling. So, you know, as soon as we can get that call, and I don't know how that meeting has to happen, or, you know, who needs to be on that. You know, I don't know that it has to be like a official subcommittee meeting, but Mike would know that answer.
It probably shouldn't, you know, certainly keep me in the loop, and I would suggest that the subcommittee have one representative and to be able to be part of that and then report back to the subcommittee. That would be my suggestion.
Alec, would you do that? Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Tell me again what I just agreed to do. Review it.
Yeah, we're gonna have a quick call once Eversource gets a consultant on board to review the scope of of work regarding energy modeling and what they'll do and what GGD will do, et cetera.
Okay,
And Lynn and Gina, you had mentioned Adam as somebody who is a resource with the utilities. Is that something you want him to be included in, or?
Yeah, let me, I don't know, if Lynn, if she knows.
He
his
he was
schedule.
going to join us, but since
Yeah.
it started late, he may have dropped off. I'll give him a call.
And so I don't know, Gina
Actually,
or Lynn, are
Adam
you
is-
guys?
Adam is an attendee. He needs to get promoted, I think.
Oh, okay.
Left field, are you the ones that are gonna reach out? Are you the ones that are kind of in contact with Eversource? It's not something that Arrow Street can request. It has to come either from the OPM or if there's somebody from the subcommittee who's going to be the sort of liaison with Eversource.
Yes, we typically do that.
Okay, let me just pause for a minute, please. Either Tim or Owen, could you please promote Adam? I think I saw Tim, you got to be a co-host.
magic.
Nice.
All right. Oh, he was there.
He was there.
There he is.
There he
Okay,
is.
good.
Hi guys, I've been hearing you, but nice to meet you all, if only virtually. So I think I heard somebody said, will we reach out to Eversource? And we could certainly do that. And we are actually, we just had a meeting with Kim Cullahane last week for another project we're doing in Brookline. So I talked to Kim a lot, and we'd be happy to do that.
Adam, are you with the MEP firm? Is that?
No, I'm with Left Field.
Oh, you're with Left Field. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, somehow I've found myself in this role of working with Eversource and NGrid. So, and I know Walt too from the.
He makes
Adam-
things happen fast
Adam,
with utilities.
We started our calls at 7 o'clock this morning with Brookline. So
Yeah, and we're not done yet, Walt.
in Australia, we go again at 7:30. That's right. Yep.
So, I'm sorry. I think I heard Adam and
Correct.
Kate and Alec for sure are gonna liaise with Eversource on the MOU and moving forward. Yes?
Yes, that's correct.
And then we're gonna keep Mike in the loop. For sure. Is that good?
Yeah, I may participate in that call, but I don't necessarily, if everybody else is available, you shouldn't work around me for that.
Okay.
And just let me know when that's going to be.
Very good.
And that covers our committee, Left Field, Arrow Street, right? So I think we're good.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else we need to talk about on that? If not, we'll move ahead to the building performance user data checklist. That cute thing. I know that, Alec, you've been working on the energy and water use.
Yeah, I sent that to Tina and Kate. I don't know if it needed to be massaged into the format of the spreadsheet or if what I sent was acceptable the way it is. Either ways.
I haven't delved through everything that you sent yet. We can take care of, getting that into the spreadsheet. So the way you sent it is fine. I did have one question. You said for some of the buildings, there are multiple accounts.
Yeah.
So the use of the accounts is not always shown.
Right. For example, on one of
So you don't know if it's building versus maybe site. Is that
right.
maybe?
But you can tell if you look at the magnitude of the energy use, that like one is the major account and the other one is, I don't know whether it's outside lighting or.
Yeah, if it's outside lighting, that's fine. We'll just
Well-
assume it's all part of the project because when we do the project, we include exterior lighting. Every once in a while, there's a project where it's like lighting the field, like actually, across the street in 10 fields or something. That might be a lot of energy to assign to the project, but I'm guessing that for most of them, it's just pretty typical site lighting, so that's fine.
Yeah, for one of them, it's labeled floodlights. I noted in the spreadsheet which one that was. And then for the Wheelock School, which I included in that spreadsheet, and it does have adjacent playing fields, although those playing fields don't have lights. There was a separate separate part of the accounting that delineated between the school and the fields, and I did not include the data for the fields. I just included the data for the school, although I don't know what would be in the data for the field, since there's no lights on those fields.
I know there's floodlights around the back
Oh, right,
parking. Yeah,
where the playground is and stuff.
yeah, and even on the other side, there's
Oh, that- yeah,
floodlights.
okay, all right. I've always spent my time on the long soccer field section.
Great, so I think we're all set with that. And then the other piece was the rates, which I know you didn't have access to that. So I'm not sure who at the town would know what the general rate is that they're using. Again, if they're different, like we don't need them for those for every school, just if they have the rate, an average rate or the rate for Dale Street, that would be fine.
Yeah, I think Nick would have those rates.
Doesn't the town pre-buy this too or something? I think, don't they enter into an agreement? I could be wrong.
Yep,
The
we
way-
just
With Constellation.
It's Constellation or one of those similar groups, but the way it was shown in Mass Energy Insight was it had the Eversource portion of the rate, which is the transmission and distribution, but it didn't have the commodity part of it.
Now, so you have the demand side, but you don't have the commodity. Constellation would be the commodity side, but
Right.
When I talked to Mike Lanfrancesca yesterday, he said he also put in a request to someone about getting more utility information. I don't know whether he was going to actually get the bills, but he's working on that a little bit.
Okay.
I can get the bills. I know who at the town hall. It's Maureen Barrett. You want me to get a recent bill for Dale Street on the delivery and the supply? I can include that.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
that's, if it's not some sort of special condition for that building and you think that's a typical rate that you would see, then that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know
Yeah,
why.
Alec, let me know if you need any help with that.
It seems reasonable just to ask Maureen, right?
Yeah.
And that's who I've
Yeah.
gotten the bills from in the past.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll send it.
And if you get the bill, so it should say on there, so I was going to ask a question that I realized if you're just getting the bills, it will have on there whether or not there's any renewable purchase through that. Like, are you offsetting with green power? But that would be on the bill. So
Can you get a year's worth? That's what we usually ask for. I mean, I know in the PSR, we're including an average cost per square foot for the utilities in terms of projecting for future budget for the project. But usually if we can get a year's worth of bills, then you can figure out what the average is yearly for the project.
Yeah,
typically a bill would have the year on it if it's the full bill. So it should be okay.
it would have the usage for the year, but I don't know if it has the costs each month.
actually, what about electronic access? I actually have that. You can pay like $30 a month, then have access to the meter going back a year, or does the town done that or not?
Well, it's in the Mass Energy Insight website. Let me look. I can look at that right now. And I'll
Yeah,
see-
because I can go right into my site here and look at it going back a year.
Right. Yeah, none of the schools are going to be big enough to have that type of meter access, except for the high school and the middle school.
It's not that big. It's the Eversource Energy Profiler.
I think to have an interval data meter, you need to have, I think, over 300 kW, which I don't.
That's what I only do. Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
And
I'll
I
look,
assume you want the demand by month or not?
that I have already. I put
We
that.
already
Okay, great.
have the use. We just need the rates. Yep.
Great.
Yeah, I put in the usage and the demand. Hang on, I'll go on to the next thing and I'll look it up right now.
Okay, the other two things were occupancy schedules and equipment list. Amy, Mike said you were helping with that.
Well, I talked to Michael. He can get the
Michael.
occupancy. Michael can get the occupancy schedule. For the equipment list, I think I had sent you an email. So I think Steve Grenham, who's the principal over there, and I think Owen's on this this call as well. He may have better idea for equipment for smart boards if there's any, copiers and things like that. I can help. I can get this over to the principal see what kind of input he has.
If you could work with Michael on that, that would be great, because I think
Sure.
it's probably the three of you, Michael, or maybe four, Michael, Owen, the principal, and you, trying to nail that down.
Sure.
Megan and Alec, I can add that as I'm talking to Kim, I can see who often towns have facilitators from Eversource as a large client, and
Yeah.
perhaps they can help us get to the rate. So
Yeah, it's
I'll
Steve
try and,
Grattan.
can you give me that name again? Steve what?
Steve Grattan.
Steve Grattan.
He's the main municipal contact for.
He might be able to help you too.
Yeah, I actually, for something related to the Energy Committee, I've been asking another contact at Eversource for data for the high school and the middle school. So I could, if we need to, I can get it from them, but it's probably just as easy to get it from Maureen.
Okay.
So Amy, with the schedules and the equipment list, if you want to start with sort of existing, right? If you want to kind of take stock of what you have, and then, you could duplicate the tab and create a new one that's the proposed. Be conservative within reason. So there's always an unknown of, what more usage a building will get, both nights, weekends, and summer. So, make sure you're thinking about, oh, we might need it for this or for that, and sort of add in, we can always revisit it later. This is really just the initial, and we'll look at it every phase of the design as, you start thinking about different ways the building might be used. And I just wanted to point out again on the MOU, the minimum requirement for the summer is 4 weeks, and that has to include classroom spaces. So it can't just be like, a program that comes into the gym or the cafeteria. So make sure you have sort of at least that minimum usage for the summer, and then obviously more if you think there'll be more.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Amy, do you know if the Dale account stopped using a competitive supply for the supply side?
No, not that no, I don't think so.
Because the costs that are in here range from 8 cents a kilowatt hour to 17 cents a kilowatt hour, depending upon the month. So I think there's something we should back it up and double check with the actual bills to make sure this data is good.
Oh, they give us- that's a kilowatt hour. Okay, that's a good.
I mean, 17 seems reasonable and 8 seems pretty cheap. So that's why I was thinking that 8 might be without the supply and maybe 17 was with the supply, since that's the most recent. But
not pay like lump sum, like a lump sum every quarter or something like that.
yeah, I don't know. I'll double check with Maureen and see if I can get a copy of the actual bills.
I just remember they bought a couple of years ahead, right? Isn't that what happens? Or maybe I'm wrong.
Anyway, I'll do some more digging. Stay tuned.
Okay. Kate, sounds like we have a plan for this. Sounds good
Like, yep.
on this? All right.
And then we're trying to target to start the energy modeling the week of January 4th-ish, depending, and we have the scoping session and when they can start. So they'd need the data for that week.
What's the date again, Kate?
The first full week of January.
Okay. So soon.
Sometime in there is when we would need to have them start the modeling. Now, there's certain things they do with the model before they need this data. So, that's why I'm saying that week. It doesn't have to be January 4th, but sort of in that week, by the end of that week.
Okay.
Hey, forgive me for catching up, but the plan is we're gonna go path 1 ZNE, and we're gonna try that for a while. Hopefully we can do that if it's not too expensive. If that works out, we'll continue with that. But we, if it doesn't, we would move to path 2, which is that correct? And I ask because I did talk. Lynn had asked me to talk to Kim just roughly about conceptually about this project and ZNE, and in getting the MOU, it'll affect who their modeler is. They would like to use someone more like Thornton Tomasetti, if it's ZNE, but they might do something more like an Andelman and Lelik if it's a path 2.
Right.
The intent here is to pursue path 1 to the point where the selectmen can decide whether we continue it or not. So through the modeling process, yes, we would be pursuing path 1. If the selectmen decide that they don't want to go down the net zero path, obviously that would revert us and kick us into path 2.
Very good. So we'll build the MOU around ZNE and Thornton Thomas.
Yep. The MOU for path 1 will be signed by the town. It's been approved, and the town administrator will sign it. It's already in her hands.
Oh, excellent. With the costs for that.
Yeah, we don't have cost until we have a consultant on board from, but the MOU is signed, but we don't have a consultant, so we don't know. We can deal with the cost, but we need to see a proposal, and we haven't seen that yet.
Right, that's what the scoping session, Adam, that you're going to ask Eversource to set up. That's what the scoping session will lead to, the proposal, to know exactly what TT or whoever ends up being. They thought that it was going to be TT as long as they're available to meet our schedule.
If we say we're going down path 1 and then after we go down that path, decide that we can't do it, doesn't the modeling have to be redone?
No.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the second path is, it's still based on EUI reduction. So it's the same type of modeling.
Yeah, custom measure approach, I think. I did talk about that with Kim. That's consistent. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Okay, excellent. Item 6 is about involving the community and whether there'd be a public forum of some sort. Arrow Street, do you have some thoughts?
Larry, do you want me to do that, or you want to?
Well, I was going to say, yeah, we are happy to do something, and Kate, maybe you can talk about the specifics, but would need somebody at the town, you guys or the SBC, to take the lead on getting it scheduled and posted and all that. But Kate, you want to talk more about the specifics?
Yeah, so at the beginning of the year, and I still haven't looked up the date if it was January or February, we did do a community forum focused on building performance. I know, Alec, you were there. And so we thought that what we could do is, instead of sort of like, redoing that as a sort of a visioning building performance, that we could sort of recap what we heard at that session. And then what we would do is give a primer on net zero and just talk about the process and the fact that the analysis is, going to be ongoing for the next couple of months. And just so that, we assume that there'll be a second community forum where we present the analysis. And so we thought that it might be good to have one before we just sort of present all the analysis, but we wanted to get your opinion on that, of whether that made sense to sort of do a small forum. I don't know if you want to combine it with, I know there's like a separate transportation forum, so I don't know if it wanted to be combined with that or completely separate. So that's what our thought was, is kind of having this as like a primer, and just so the community knows that the project is going through this process, and just we would basically do an overview of what is net zero, what does this process look like, what is the what are we trying to get out of the analysis. So it would be sort of very high level. We obviously don't have the data yet, but it would be sort of prepping for being able to provide the data at the end. Could
you share the information from the schools that are going forward, like or the one in Cambridge and the Axborough?
We could. I mean, I think that's up to you. We could certainly show examples of other projects, obviously Arrow Street projects and other projects as well. I think that always helps to not feel like it's an agenda by showing other designers projects as well. If that's something you want to put in there, we could definitely do that.
Alec, Walt, Amy, Tom, what do you think?
I think it's a great idea.
I think it's a good idea. The only thing, will we get people? But I think maybe it's separate from the other forum, but and by itself.
Having
Okay.
been to lots of public forums,
Huh.
I mean,
Public safety got 0 a couple of times, so.
Well-
We're definitely getting more participation over the digital format. You know, we're seeing a lot more attendance than we ever did pre-COVID. So, you know, personally, I think it's beneficial, and you know, even if only a handful of people show up, I do think that getting people to understand this, especially if it's something that ultimately the selectmen decide to pursue, it's going to require a lot of explanation around, you know, the
Yeah.
costs and where money is coming from, and it's not the simplest thing. So keeping the conversation open and out in the public, I think, is good.
I think that's right, Mike. Good points. And
And
while we, I was gonna say, while we were meeting, I just got a text from my eldest son who's in the house who just got accepted to his top choice for
Oh,
university
congratulations.
with a scholarship too.
Nice.
Oh.
Even better.
Yeah,
Even
even
better.
better.
Yay.
Congrats. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas is right.
2020 is ending on a high note for him.
Yeah, hopefully I'll actually be
exciting.
able to go to campus.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see.
Good,
I-
okay.
Stops
Okay.
harassing people on concerned citizens of Medfield. We'll be all right.
I think the question that I was wondering is there any logic to trying to ask Eversource to be part of a forum in January?
Penny would be, she did it
Yeah,
right.
I think that we have them in TT as well. We could kind of tag team it the way that we did Acton.
Yeah, I was thinking because that might help people to understand the overall idea that Eversource is trying to move into an idea that more and more buildings are getting to be net zero.
Excellent. Okay, I'm
So
happy to.
for scheduling,
ahead.
we were thinking the last part of January, so sometime before the end of the month would be good. But it's flexible. I mean, it could go into the beginning of February if we needed to. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll
how
have
the
to,
schedule looks.
January. Just
we'll have
because-
to talk that through with our OPM as well. Just we're tentatively scheduled to have another public forum, mostly with the geared towards the Elm Street neighborhood. So we'll just have to coordinate that so that there's, you know, sufficient spacing between those.
Are you close to that? Do you think we can pick a date between now and the beginning of January, or?
Do you why don't you give me a week to sort that out? Look
Okay.
that through. I think we have a working group meeting on Monday, right? Lynn, Gina.
Do we? God,
I don't think we've scheduled it, but.
No, okay.
Yeah, 'cause
Anyway,
Say,
well,
if you say so.
let's
we
touch base.
planned to have the PSR submitted tomorrow, and there wasn't a need. We had said we'd meet again
Right.
for the submission of the PSR if we needed to.
Yeah. So let's touch base. I would like just to talk through the schedule, you know, with you and Arrow Street, just to, you know, see what's appropriate. Maybe you can propose a schedule that, you know, they're somewhat not related, but, you know, having them too close together may not be the right approach. But I don't see any reason why we can't get both done in January. But I just want to make sure that they're sufficiently spaced apart, as I'm sure Arrow Street would too, to give them time to prepare for both of them.
Today in the communications meeting, we had said somewhere the week of the 20-something of July for the neighborhood forum.
Yeah, I want to make sure we're not overtaxing Arrow Street too, because we're going to have the FAS meeting somewhere in there as well. I don't know if it's that week or the week before, but just want to make sure we're not overtaxing Arrow Streets. Larry, let us know if you have any concerns on the schedule.
I think in some ways, so we had talked the week of the 25th to have the traffic meeting. And there's 2 opportunities for the FAS meeting, and I can't remember those, but I think the 13th and 27th. Does that sound right, Tina?
I think that's right.
I think it's 13th and 20th. They're a week
Yeah.
apart this month.
20th, okay.
Yeah, I think you're right, Lynn.
So, okay, why don't we then, for this group, table the conversation and we'll sort out the scheduling. And Mike and Lynn, we did try to put together a little bit more of a broader look ahead, and would be good to review with you guys as well.
Great.
So if we want to just send around an invite for the usual Monday afternoon meeting, if you guys want to try and do that.
Yeah, I mean, whenever works best. I know that we have the SBC, our meeting minute SBC meeting on Monday night. So if you want to do it before then, that's fine.
Okay.
Whatever works for you.
Okay. All right, we'll sort that out.
Excellent, great, thank you. I look forward to that. I think it'll be great. And I have some people who I can turn to help with publicity, so I think that'll be good. The
And
next,
Megan,
yep,
you know, in terms of publicity too, that's what the communication subcommittee is for.
yes, perfect,
So
yep.
don't be afraid to loop in Anna May into the conversation about advertising for that.
Definitely.
It can get email blasted out unless there's another. Do we have another list to go? You can talk to Anna, but you probably
She did it mentioned that, so thank you, yep. And then, okay, move on to item 7, which was to, Kate, you gave us some more homework to research on the test well and how that might go, and also the solar.
Yeah, so the test well was about the permitting for that. I don't know if any conversations have started on that. You know,
Yeah, Amy, maybe you can help chase this down. You know, we're a little ways away from it, so we've got a little bit of time, but many towns that we've worked with in doing these geothermal test wells or geothermal wells in general, smaller towns don't necessarily have regulations regarding them, so it's often sometimes a little complicated in getting people to review them or say that they don't need to review them. But I've seen some towns that it goes through the Board of Health because of the water issue. Other towns, you know, it's not reviewed at all. And so might be good just to check in with the Board of Health, or Sarah Raposa might be able to help. She's obviously knows a lot about the ins and outs at Town Hall. I would check with her. And then maybe, you know, quick conversation with the building commissioner. I don't know if he would chime in or not, but.
Okay, sounds good.
yeah, we just want to make sure that there's an understood path of how we would have to go about permitting the well field and feeling comfortable that that it can be built in the zoning that's on the site.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, the Board of Selectmen could vote to do the geothermal system, and you know, you could change it later, but that potentially impacts the ability to be net zero. So we just want to make sure we start that now.
Yep.
And then, the other piece was the
I'm sorry, just before
Yep.
we move beyond the well, I think in terms of like time frame moving backwards, are we all on the same page? Mike, I think you had thought maybe if we did do it, it would be something we would do next summer.
I think spring is more likely, because we would need
Okay.
to do it with enough time to analyze the data and inform the design before it goes out for cost estimating. So, you know, right now, if we're thinking that we want to get to a decision on the net zero from the selectmen in March sometime, I would be thinking that if the selectmen do choose to go this route, geothermal is the most common way I've seen to get there. And certainly I think the simplest way to get there, though not necessarily the cheapest. So I would think if we get to a decision in March about the path to net zero, we would then want to be drilling probably in April for the test well. And then, that process takes about a month between the installation of the wells, analysis of the data, et cetera. So that would get the data back to the engineers in Arrow Street sometime in May, such that they could run their calculations and size the well field as part of the design. So it could be cost estimated, which I think we were looking at June. Is that right, Larry, for cost estimating?
Well, our submission date is early July. And we were thinking we might have to go sooner for cost estimating than that.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
And particularly because we are imagining that there may be some review of the numbers that have to happen, either at the SBC level or at the Board of Selectmen level sometime in June to
We have to
vet
provide
and-
the project notification form to MSBA that includes the money that we're going after, that we'll be submitting in schematic design, and that has to happen 2 weeks in advance of the July 7th date. So we would have to be firm with the numbers and have that approved by the SBC before we submit that notification.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So
And I
anyway,
think-
I guess the point being that if we're going to be doing a well, we want to be doing it probably as early in April as possible.
Yeah, that sounds about right. And I do think we should talk about whether we have to deal with MHC in the process of drilling a hole in the ground.
So
We've already done borings, so we've already drilled holes in the ground. So,
Oh, yeah, good point. Good point.
Mike,
Okay.
I'm a little concerned about how much money we have for the energy
Yeah.
consultant, the geothermal well, the archaeological investigation. I just don't know that, do we have any other avenue for funding of these things?
yeah, let me talk that. I'm sure there's ways that we can do it. I recognize where we are budget wise. The energy consultant is small dollars. We can accommodate that. The archaeological survey, I estimate somewhere to be in the range of $20,000, which I think we can accommodate as well. But the geothermal well, test well, I estimate to be 40 to 50 grand. We would not be able to fit that within our budget. So there could be a potential. I've talked a little bit about it with at least one of the selectmen. There could be a potential to get some funds from the reserve fund to fund that test well, and then that would then be replenished as part of the vote in the fall to approve the funding for the whole project.
And Mike, who would design the well field?
So that other piece is that we'll be bringing on a geothermal consultant.
Sure.
So it won't be a lot of money for their SD scope, but we would bring them on they do an initial review before it goes to the Board of Selectmen. So we feel comfortable with the amount of wells that we're estimating. And then once they'll help lay out where the wells where the wells are going to go, the test wells, because they're also permanent, and then they'll do the analysis when it comes back. Because we're still in schematic design, it will help take the number that we have in March, and it will kind of clarify a little bit more. We won't have the final well until construction documents when the final mechanical design is done. So we still hold a range in SD, but the test well will help that range, be more, to be narrower.
Okay. And if it's helpful, we did a test well in Brookline, rough order magnitude, about $110,000 for a 900-foot well with a.
Yeah, that's not common. As I say, sorry, Kate, to interrupt, but we just did one for Ashland, and in the range that we're thinking, because this isn't an urban site, we would probably be in the 500 to 600 foot range, and that's where I got my 40. We had McPhail do it, and it was 45 grand.
Great, and McPhail is who we used in Brookline, and we did use a proprietary well, which is Rigan, which I think might have driven the cost.
We would start looking at it as just a, and again, the type of well might change later. But for these test wells, we'll just do a pretty standard dual well.
That'll help.
But you can always take those wells and incorporate them in with a different system later.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. I think what that says to me is that we do need to just keep moving forward to make sure that if there is permitting to be done and other boards want to get involved, that we give them the time to do that in January and February, so that when we hit April, we could go ahead and do that.
And I'll investigate the funding aspects of that, that work.
Thank you. Okay, then the other item, Kate, was the solar. And I did ask the solar group subcommittee of the Medfield Energy Committee if they would work on it. And of course they said yes, but then I didn't know what else to tell them. So what do you recommend in terms of the thinking they should be doing now, and who can they be in touch with to get more of those details?
So as I mentioned last time, sometimes we've seen towns will hire someone to help them through the process. And that, usually includes helping them write an RFP and reaching out to different providers. I don't know, different, some towns do that and some towns don't do that. But, really at this point, we just want to make sure the town's starting the discussion of the renewable side. So, we'll do pricing for, an actual solar array being purchased as part of the project, just so that there's a cost for that. But we also need to, most likely you're probably going to want to see the cost for not purchasing and installing your own system and going through a power purchase agreement of some kind. So, we don't typically get involved too much. Sometimes we'll read the RFP, but we're really looking at the design parameters, making sure they know exactly how much square footage is on the roof and how much square footage is on the site. And we provide drawings and things like that. So for right now, we're just trying to make sure that when we get to the analysis, the financial analysis part, which is going to happen towards the mid to end of February, that, that we are getting data from the town that says, this is what we're going to anticipate. We're, are we going to do a PPA? Here's the rate that we think that we might get, so that we can use that rate in the analysis. So that's sort of the end goal of what we need.
Kate, I can offer. Oh, I'm sorry. I can offer that we've done a few jobs with Select Solar, and if for the PPA, the budgeting purposes of that, we could bring them to the table and see if they could help us.
Excellent.
We actually, I think Select manages the public safety.
They do the wastewater treatment.
Wastewater.
Yeah.
They also manage my system too.
They're pretty big. We did projects at Fall River and Salem State with them.
But it is a much better idea to have just someone do that as opposed to going through all the design and bid. That's just crazy from a cost standpoint, from what I've seen.
So I definitely recommend, so Select is somebody who we work with. We usually, on smaller projects, we just reach out to them when they're not like a town project, but it's an individual building, just to do the analysis. Ultimately you're definitely going to want to get multiple proposals. You're going to get much better rates that way.
Will we get those before February?
I don't anticipate that. It's more starting to talk to at least somebody that you feel comfortable is going to have a competitive rate. And, you could talk to that one person. And I think it sounded like from last time that the town maybe is also considering, options that are beyond this building. And so the rate will change if you're doing a much larger array, whether it's a much larger array on this site, or if it's multiple sites, that will impact the type of rate that you're going to get.
we really need the data. We need the data first before we can go after this. Yes.
Right? And when you say data, Tom, what are you thinking?
The loads is what you're saying, right? Am I correct? So we need to say how much energy we have to buy. I think that's
We can tell you the estimate of what the energy is going to be because we're targeting an EUI. So we already know, we don't know exactly what EUI will end up at, but we know our maximum it's 25 because that's the MOU. And that's what we would use. So we can give you that information. But if you're looking at multiple buildings, you would need to know, if you're offsetting more than just this building, if you're offsetting other municipal buildings, you would need to know that data separately.
We wouldn't have any sense at this time what the size of our array could be on the building.
Yeah,
Is
we
that
know.
fair?
Yeah, we've already done that analysis
you
to make
actually-
sure
you
that it could fit.
Okay.
So we can get that from you, Kate, and then Adam, maybe we'll be in touch with you, and I'll also wrap the solar subcommittee from the energy committee in, because I think they're really familiar with all this.
And Megan, do you know if there's any other solar arrays on town buildings and who
Well,
they
there are two, right, Amy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I know they're in the process of putting one out to bid, actually, right this minute, for the DPW building, I believe. And then they have their sights set on a couple other down the pike.
Interesting that DPW might be able to leverage off of this project, or they could work together.
Yeah, if it's already out to bid, it might be too late, but that's something you could think about. If the bids haven't gone out yet, there could be an option. You could roll this into the option.
Would people do that this far out? Is that how it works?
They won't necessarily, I don't really know the answer to that. I would say they might not lock in the rate at this point, but they'll give you a sense of like a range of what the expected rate could be.
Mm-hmm.
There is also a smaller site. They're doing a water treatment plant right next to the Wheelock School, which they were going to put in the proper access for solar too. But that's not a huge. That's only 4,000 square feet, I think. So that's an option also, and that is actually going to be built, I think, the end of next year. I don't know how we put that together.
I guess, Kate, if you could get that information on the size of the array potentially for this project, there's a gentleman at Select, Matt Shortsleeve, who I know he's a salesperson, and I'll get some more information and report back.
Adam, that'd be great. Okay. Thank you on that. Okay, number 9 was analysis alternatives. I think, Larry, you asked us last time to start thinking about how it is we want to look at this. And I guess I don't know what our options are.
Well, I think for us, and it was sort of building off of the presentation that Mark Sandine did, or at least the input we got from him on their approach in Concord, but thinking about if we're as Mike Quinlan was saying, we're going to tee up an analysis of costs and benefits for the selectmen to review, then at some point the issue will be coming, okay, so what is the financial benefits to the town and how do you evaluate that? And so for us, we'll provide all the other information about costs and energy usage and those sorts of things. And you'll be getting from, perhaps get some information from a PPA and others about, sorry, getting pinged here.
Utility rates.
Utility rates and all that. But, thinking through and setting the stage for how do you make that decision ultimately? What are you weighing when you say, okay, let's weigh the cost benefits? And as we've talked about, Mark Sandine and the folks in Concord had a slightly different approach than ones we've heard other folks wrestling with, and just want to sort of get that thought through in a way that when that time comes, everybody understands the analysis that you would want to use, versus we tee up all this information, we do all these things that we've just been talking about, And at the end, there's a big sort of collective, oh, so how do we start thinking about the dollars and cents on this? So that was the thought, in the same vein that we're teeing up all this energy analysis information, start teeing up how do we deal with the financial thinking.
So I have only seen the Sandine analysis. Do you have, and maybe all of you do, have experience with other towns and projects and how they have conveyed this and been able to share and make the cases, or not make the case, that it was worthwhile to move forward?
Yeah, I think, the usual routine is you say, okay, well, what is the premium for this net zero-ness? And what is the savings on it per year?
Payback, yeah.
And when does it pay itself back? And, that could be 15, 20 years. And his point was, well, if you think of the premium on the bond to pay off the premium on the net zero, it actually pays for itself almost immediately. And I think getting comfortable, either the second of those two, which is the the Concord approach, or saying, no, we're going to stick to the original and just run the cash, it's a more of a straightforward approach. It gives you a different result. And people say, well, if that pays itself out in 15 to 20 years, why are we talking about it? Versus if it pays itself out in 2 or 3 years, why wouldn't we do it? So that's the part I think is worth trying to get some consensus across the community as to how best to evaluate that.
Well, I think the selectmen will be receptive because they've learned a lot about the Sandine analysis, to definitely seeing that for sure.
Okay.
And then is the other, because that is it's a complex analysis. I think it's going to need some of the data from Thornton Tomasetti and.
So we'll
Yeah.
do the first analysis,
Okay,
and
thank
that
you.
is 100%. If we have your PPA rate and you're already getting the typical rates for us, that's all on us. We do that analysis, and we'll have that. If we are doing the second analysis, we basically need all the same stuff that we're doing for the first one, but then we'll need more financial data from the town. What do you anticipate for your bond rate? Are you going to pursue what else could you, if you're doing a PPA, that your rate there, you're not taking advantage of net metering because you're doing it through PPA, but there is, if we do geothermal, there is an alternative energy credit that you can get through the utility that's a recurring, it's like net metering, but it's for your ground source energy. So that's something that if the town wanted to participate in that program, you could do that. If through your PPA you decide to do battery storage, there's going to be extra savings there. So those are the types of things that, and again, we can show you the one from Concord. We're also putting together a similar analysis for Acton. It wasn't how net zero was part of that project from the beginning. So it wasn't exactly the analysis they had to do, but we're sort of post-analyzing that into a similar format. So, we can show you that when that's done. But there's, probably like 3 or 4 different pieces that would come from the town that would get us from the first analysis to this second analysis.
Okay, well, we definitely want to do it. So we'll stay on top of that. And Mike, do you have any information like from Ashland? I know you said they were in the middle of this decision.
What information are you looking for?
Well, just about how they are going about making their decision. And I think you said they decided.
Well, they're in a different position. The town of Ashland has a set energy policy to be to pursue net zero for all their municipal projects by I think 2040. Don't quote me on that year. It might be another year, but so it's a town policy that they've already set. So, when they pursued the project, the question was only whether they were going to be net zero or net zero ready at this point with the project. Currently, the project is only pursuing net zero ready, which essentially means they are going with an all electric building and they are using ground source heat pumps to heat and cool the building. But they're not doing the PVs that offset I think the current EUI is targeted at 24.5 based on the model right now. So the PVs is something they're still going to explore, but it's going to be outside of the project we're working on, and they are exploring PPAs as well. Does that answer your question?
It does. If anybody has anything that I could look at on those, I would love to see them, but like just analyses.
Yeah, we can send you some examples in January.
Great.
But to your point, Mike, it sounds like they already made that decision. They're not trying to figure it out.
Correct. So there was no analysis really needed. It was just a matter of, how far they were going to go in terms of the PV arrays.
Right. And we'll show the payback, with and without the PV, and then also with the 2 PV options, whether you were owning and paying for a system versus going through the PPA. So those would be part of just the straight payback analysis, because they're really just cost and whether or not your utility rate is reduced by having the PV.
Excellent. That kind of leads me to the fact that Medfield does not have the net zero commitment, but last time, Larry, you asked what the proposal was for our goal. The Medfield Energy Committee is proposing a warrant article to be net zero, and I can share that.
I did see you sent that around.
So I didn't, could Tim or Owen let me share, please?
Hold on one sec, try to figure it out.
Thank you. Well, I can read it to you. It's very short. To see if the town will support the goal of eliminating or offsetting all greenhouse gas emissions originating in Medfield by the year 2040, known as the Net Zero 2040 goal, and then developing an action plan by November 2021 that outlines the specific strategies and sets measurable, attainable, realistic targets for achieving the net zero goal. But again, it's a little bit of cart before the horse, right? It hasn't been adopted, but we're optimistic, or the Energy Committee is hopeful, but we'll see.
So the goal is that this is in front of town meeting in late spring?
May, it should be May.
Okay.
The first Monday in May.
So that would, in some ways, yeah, it's a little bit of the cart before the horse, because if this were in place, then that would make a stronger argument for doing net zero at the new building.
It would. Which is one of the reasons I'm really excited about the education that we hope to do, in January, just get people talking about this, knowing that it's feasible, knowing that it's not like fringe left, that it's becoming more mainstream, and I think somebody said all the schools are thinking about it.
Yeah, that was our thought of the January. It's, getting people's opinions, but it's also allowing some messaging to go the other way and get the message out there. And to me, that was the interesting part about trying to get Eversource to participate, because they are, they're jumping in on this wholeheartedly. And so getting people to see the bigger picture of the benefits of net zero, as well as then the intricacy of what it takes to get there, is hopefully helpful.
Thank you. Okay. Did anybody have anything else to add? How are we doing? We covering everything, moving along like we should?
Yeah.
I think so. I'll just to kind of jump off on what Lawrence had said. We're at Brookline. I know that we were looking at 2-pass doing the geothermal or not, and Eversource is kind of sweetened the deal on the rebates. to try and influence us to go with the geothermal. So they are trying to incentivize, and I'm going to talk to them about the community forum and their participation. And I think I do think they'll be interested in coming and being a proponent for it.
Yeah, Kim or somebody, it sounds like maybe Patty's the better person because she's also in the town. They have Penny, sorry.
It's okay.
That, so we've done this presentation with them before. It's a little bit, typically TT is on the Aerostreet side, so it's just a little different contractually, but the three of us have done this presentation before. So I think it'll be good. I always do like to point out that the Eversource incentives, while they're the highest incentives they've ever given, they don't cover a huge percentage of the geothermal system. So they don't, the incentives don't make the decision. It's not enough of the cost coverage, but it is good. And I think it's important to show that the utilities are, incentivizing this and encouraging people to go in this direction because they know people can achieve it. And because, they're aware of the grid and what we need to do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, in Brookline, when I say sweeten the deal, it's about $70,000 against $2 million
right
premium. So yeah, you're right. It's not paying for it by any means, but it's something. And I like the idea of listing all the schools that are doing it or planning to do it, because it isn't radical.
Mm-hmm.
No, schools are actually leading the charge. K-12 schools and are on the forefront of this technology.
What is the long-term maintainability in the geothermal systems? Does anybody have experience? In 10 years, do you have
they're fairly simple systems, Tom, and the pumps are all easily replaced and things like that. But it's a fairly simple system.
The pumps are all sitting upstairs.
The wells are essentially lifetime. You're not drilling a new well field in 30 years.
Yeah, there's no moving parts to the well itself. It's just the pumps that pull the water in and out, the heat exchangers, things like that.
And the heat exchangers are up at the top too. Then, so you're not ripping the wells up.
Correct.
I was just wondering about experience. I know Weston did one maybe 10 years ago, I think, for their public works building. I saw that. I don't know if Amy had any experience with that either.
Do you know, Kate, the oldest one I can think of is in Cambridge, which was probably what, 20 plus years?
Yeah. So Cambridge, Michael Black he's since retired recently, but from Cambridge has actually been there and knows sort of the history from the very first one they did at their City Hall Annex. It was not a closed loop system. So I think they have the great experience of, they've done multiple projects with geothermal systems, so that they've got great lessons learned. And of course we did King Open with them, and the system we did there was, based on their past experience. So we're very, very familiar.
I think
because we've done two
Westboro
projects.
has a 20-year-old one too.
Actually, I think we did look at it on the public works garage, but there wasn't a large air. I think we just sort of stopped because there was not a large air conditioning load. And it just didn't really make sense for that one. But this is a different story with the school. We can't build, I don't think we get away with building another school in town without air conditioning. We'll get hung.
Yeah, those days are long gone.
The high school, middle school.
It's more has to do with the history, Larry, because the high school project back 20 years ago, they value engineered it out, and then everybody complained that there was no cooling in the the shoulder seasons of May, June, and September, October.
It gets pretty nasty, yeah.
Yeah, it's particularly trying to keep the kids going when it's June and it's hot in the classroom. They just
it's nice outside and it's 80 degrees in there, or 85,
yeah.
Good. Okay, if I was able to share my screen, I was going to share the list of people that I have for emails to go to. And, I apologize about if I'm missing people. I don't know whether the group wants to see everything. If Aerostreet, you want to pick one person that if I send out an email one person gets it. I know Lynn and Mike probably would like to be on everything. Just a little unclear about that, how people like to work.
I think from our side, if you CC the three of us, myself, Tina, and Kate. I
If you
think
don't
that's good.
mind, I'm happy to, is too much information better than not knowing?
Yep.
Would everyone be happy to be just copied on most everything?
I think for our side, certainly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I can do that. And Adam, I'll add you to our list.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Also, I don't have permission to share I think Owen has to give you permission to share screen.
Okay.
Because I don't have the authority.
All right. I'll make sure we can do that for the next meeting.
Megan, you should, I mean, if you go down to the share screen button, if there's a little up arrow,
Yeah.
if you click on that, you should be able to allow all panelists to present.
Well, okay. Maybe Tim can do that. I'm not a co-host.
Oh, you're not, okay.
Yeah.
Owen made Tim a co-host.
So Tim,
Yeah,
you can do that.
When I click on it, it only gives me the option to share my screen. I don't see.
Okay, maybe only the host can do that.
Maybe only the host, because you're co-host, yeah.
So I'll check on that.
Yeah.
Make everybody co-host next time.
Mhm.
Okay, I think we are scheduled to meet Thursday, January 7th. And I believe the building committee's also scheduled to meet Wednesday, January 6th, right? Does that make sense for us to meet then? Should we move our meeting to Tuesday at all to see if there's anything data gathering we can do earlier in that week rather than later? Or I think Thursdays have worked for this group, so maybe we should just stick with that. What do people think?
I mean, you can talk amongst yourselves about it, but I have no problem with it being Thursday. I don't think that unless there's some specific action items that you want to tackle before the SBC meeting, but I don't think we're there yet.
No.
Thursday would
Okay.
be fine. Thursday sounds good, yeah.
So Thursday, January 7th. Okay, and then we're kind of just looking forward every 2 weeks. So then we'd be looking again at the 21st, but then also in there getting some kind of forum late January.
Right.
Yeah.
Good?
Yeah, good.
And 4:30 works nicely for
4:30 works
people?
for everybody.
Okay. All right. Would anyone like to end this meeting?
I'll make a
Now
motion.
let's keep going.
I'll make a motion to close the meeting, or
Adjourn, yeah.
a motion to adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Amy or Walt, would you second it?
I'll second, please.
Okay. And so Amy, do you vote to
Yes.
adjourn the meeting? And
Yeah.
Tom
Yes.
and Walt
Yes.
and Alec
Sure.
and Megan, yes. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
We'll be in
Thanks,
touch.
everyone.
Have a great couple
Thank you.
weeks.
Great.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Good holidays. Bye-bye.
Bye now.